Hello everyone, welcome to the Tim Booker channel. I hope you enjoy listening to books. Today, I want to talk to you about the book Leaving Time by the renowned British forensic expert Richard Shepherd, with the subtitle, The 7 Ages of Death. Shepherd, a graduate of St. George's Medical School at the University of London, has practiced for over 40 years, examining more than 23,000 bodies and assisting law enforcement in solving numerous cases. He is a legendary figure in the British forensic field. In his previous work, Unnatural Causes, Shepherd reflected on his many years as a forensic pathologist, using solved cases as the main thread of his narrative. In Leaving Time, he continues this storytelling style, featuring 25 suspenseful cases he was involved in. The central theme, however, is an unexpected but closely related question to our daily lives: what are the probable death risks at different stages of our lives? My job is to autopsy, and for the vast majority of people I encounter, death comes too early and often not peacefully, writes the legendary forensic pathologist Richard Shepherd in his new book, Leaving Time. According to Shepherd, the role of a forensic pathologist is to speak for the deceased, and revealing the truth behind deaths not only comforts the families but also holds significant social importance by warning people about how to prevent similar tragedies from happening again. Due to his daily dealings with death, Shepherd can consider the meaning of life and health from a unique perspective. In Leaving Time, Shepherd divides a person's life into 7 stages: infancy, childhood, adolescence, youth, middle age, old age, and the elderly. By analyzing the causes of death for victims of different ages in various cases, Shepherd, combining his clinical and forensic anatomical knowledge, provides us with a special health survival guide. In this book, Shepherd addresses the common death risks in 4 stages: infancy, adolescence, middle age, and old age. On one hand, the unfortunate deaths of these victims are undoubtedly attributed to criminals. On the other hand, specific age-related health risks play an undeniable role in the occurrence of these tragedies. The first case in the book involves the tragic death of a 6-month-old infant named Ferguson. Despite being from an affluent middle-class family with both parents being well off, unexpected clues point to parental neglect and responsibility for the child's death. As the investigation unfolds, it is revealed that the father, despite claiming to be a doctor, is actually an alternative medicine practitioner, providing an unorthodox health regimen for the infant, leading to severe health issues and, ultimately, the child's demise. Shepherd emphasizes that the vulnerability and innocence of infants make every infant death case particularly heavy for himself and his law enforcement colleagues. He warns that despite technological advances and improved living standards, infant deaths still occur frequently because the period from the moment of conception to 1 year old is one of the most vulnerable and high-risk periods in human life. In fact, the risk of death remains low until after the age of 55. According to Shepherd, during this vulnerable period, children face various risks, including congenital defects inherited from parents, the mother's unhealthy lifestyle during pregnancy, environmental pollution, and parental neglect or negligence during upbringing. Throughout Shepherd's forensic career, he has encountered a variety of accidents leading to infant deaths, such as suffocation between walls and mattresses, strangulation by the cord of a nightlight near the crib, and falling downstairs due to an adult's misstep. In conclusion, Shepherd's book, Leaving Time, provides a unique perspective on life and death, offering insights into the diverse risks faced at different stages of life. Through the analysis of forensic cases, Shepherd not only sheds light on the tragic outcomes of these cases but also underscores the importance of awareness and preventive measures to avoid similar occurrences. However, Shepherd stated that in his investigations, he discovered that some children died from planned and premeditated abuse, or crimes of passion committed by parents due to emotional breakdowns. Sometimes, parents may not have the intention to commit murder, but the fragile nature of a child's life acts as a powerful catalyst for the parents' actions, as if they had given a strong push to the Grim Reaper. In certain cases, parents lose patience and resort to violent abuse of infants, leading to the unfortunate death of their own children. They believe that the incessant crying of the baby is a malicious provocation. In another infant death case, Shepherd found that a 4-month-old baby girl named Katie had viral myocarditis, but this does not rule out the possibility of murder. Before Shepherd could draw a conclusion, Katie's mother, Sarah, confessed at the police station. She admitted that Katie's continuous crying had pushed her emotions to the brink of collapse. Sarah went to the bedroom, covered Katie's face with a bedsheet, and, through the sheet, used her hands to cover Katie's mouth and nose. Although this process felt like only a few seconds, Sarah later discovered that Katie had stopped breathing. However, Shepard could not definitively attribute Katie's cause of death solely to Sarah's extreme actions or to the sudden onset of viral myocarditis. If infant deaths primarily stem from their own vulnerability and helplessness, as well as dangers from adults and the environment, as age increases and physical abilities strengthen, the probability of these death risks indeed decreases. However, other unpredictable factors quietly grow. According to Shepard, teenagers tend to prove their independence, eagerly exploring the world and questioning rules and authority, which brings not only more knowledge and innovation but also significantly increases the likelihood of encountering danger. Some accidents lead to death as the ultimate outcome of their impulsivity. Why are adolescents inclined to rebellion and adventure, acting impulsively without considering the consequences? Experts in biopsychology explain that if the teenage brain is compared to a machine, its components have not completed the running-in period, with some needing replacement and adjustment before reaching an ideal stable high-speed operation. For example, the parietal and frontal lobes, responsible for bodily sensation, movement, and cognitive functions, only reach nearly full development by the end of adolescence. This leads to negative effects, such as difficulty maintaining focus and increased distractibility. The immature frontal lobes weaken teenagers' ability to predict risks, making them impulsive and less able to resist temptations like drug abuse or criminal activities. Even if they make mistakes, it is challenging for them to learn from them. Additionally, there is a brain region called the limbic system responsible for processing emotions. However, during adolescence, this area, lacking sufficient support from the frontal lobes, easily gives a green light to various extreme emotions. This makes teenagers emotionally volatile, impulsive, and attracted to intense stimuli, such as reckless driving. One summer, while still on vacation, Shepard received an urgent call to return. In a camping area at a holiday resort, a crime had occurred involving the death of a teenage couple, 17-year-old Jay and 16-year-old Amelia. Amelia was found dead in the tent without external signs of injury, while Jay's body was discovered near a cliff, appearing to have fallen accidentally. Based on investigations with the deceased's classmates and friends, the police believed it might be a crime of passion. According to information provided by classmates, Amelia wanted to break up with Jay because she felt his possessiveness was becoming too strong, and the murder method could be carbon monoxide poisoning. The police found a barbecue grill with residual charcoal in the tent, and Amelia's carbon monoxide level was as high as 58%. Carbon monoxide, when absorbed into the body, prevents hemoglobin from performing its original task of transporting oxygen to various tissues, leading to death from oxygen deprivation. As long as the concentration of carbon monoxide in the blood exceeds 50%, it reaches a lethal standard. If we continue to stay in an environment with a high concentration of carbon monoxide, we will first experience headaches and mild nausea, followed by vomiting, and eventually fall into a coma. Therefore, the police analysis was that after Amelia and Jay fell asleep, Jay lit the charcoal on the grill and quietly left the tent. However, in the frantic escape, he accidentally fell off the cliff. However, Shepard raised his own questions. It's challenging for teenagers in their teens to conceive such a meticulous murder plan. If Jay intentionally killed his girlfriend, his carbon monoxide level should be very low, even 0. However, the autopsy results showed that Jay's carbon monoxide concentration was 29%, already very dangerous. This proves that he, Amelia, and the barbecue grill with ignited charcoal had stayed in the tent for a considerable amount of time, greatly reducing the likelihood of intentional murder. Moreover, the police found some cigarette butts smoked by both of them in the tent surroundings, containing both nicotine and marijuana components. Therefore, Shepard combined this evidence and made his own speculation. The young couple camped together, perhaps quarreled, but did not break up. Due to the sudden drop in nighttime temperatures, lacking scientific knowledge, they decided to light the charcoal in the barbecue to keep warm. Encouraged by Jay, the usually obedient Amelia also decided to challenge herself and shared a cigarette with her boyfriend containing marijuana. With the rapid increase in carbon monoxide concentration and the effects of marijuana, Amelia fell into a coma first, and Jay felt headaches and nausea. Believing it was due to illicit substances in the marijuana, he left the tent to breathe fresh air. However, due to the darkness of the night and hallucinations caused by marijuana, he accidentally fell off the cliff. Of course, Shepard made this judgment with another consideration in mind: two unfortunate families had already lost their precious children. Making murder inferences would only cause the grieving parents on both sides to blame and resent each other, while being incessantly disturbed by the media. Such an outcome would be too inhumane that in his book, Shepard states that the deaths of teenagers are often the result of recklessness and impulsivity, which is regrettable. However, when investigating cases where the deceased are adults, he profoundly senses a heaviness and despair. On one hand, adulthood signifies mental maturity and reaching the peak of physical function, but on the other hand, it means giving up much of the freedom and happiness once enjoyed, replaced by various pressures such as marriage crises, parenting burdens, career stagnation, and even issues like layoffs, debt, and the departure of parents. Typically, the actions of our first half of life are driven by expectations for the future and exploration of the unknown. Yet, as life enters the second half, we often discover that the future has arrived, but it is not as vibrant as we imagined. Shepard concludes that perhaps it is this deep, inescapable disappointment that makes the death toll for Britons aged 40 to 44 8 times higher than the average death toll for all age groups. On a drizzly afternoon, Shepard arrives at the morgue where the deceased is a middle-aged man named Robert. The police say that Robert was brought to the hospital by his wife, who claimed he got drunk, possibly encountered a robbery on the street, and then was helped back home by herself. However, when she woke up, Robert had already stopped breathing. During the autopsy, Shepard found many suspicious points. Firstly, Robert's injuries were severe, with extensive fractures beneath facial bruises extending from the skull to the cheekbone. His hands also bore serious bruising, possibly from self-defense. Such fatal injuries would have made it impossible for Robert to walk home even with assistance from his wife. Additionally, traces of blood pooling under the skin indicated that Robert was in a seated position for an extended period at the time of death, contrary to his wife's testimony that he lay directly on the floor after returning home. Faced with these apparent pieces of evidence, Robert's wife breaks down. She tells the police that she is the one who killed her husband, but the reasons behind it are despairing. Robert, a chronic alcoholic, couldn't maintain regular employment due to his addiction, frequently experiencing unemployment. His wife's salary barely covered the mortgage. Worse still, in addition to his alcoholism, Robert had a tendency for domestic violence and engaged in gambling. In the weeks leading up to the murder, the entire household had no cash left. Robert's wife was forced to steal some food from a supermarket, leading to her arrest. Although Robert's mother sent some money to the couple to pay overdue bills, Robert used the money to get drunk. Finally, in a fit of anger, the wife, watching her unconscious and intoxicated husband, lost control and repeatedly struck Robert with a hammer, resulting in his death. Shepard emphasizes that this murder case is not just a tragedy caused by unfortunate family circumstances but reflects the shortcomings of British society and the legal system in controlling situations like these. Many adults, especially women, find it challenging to escape marriages filled with domestic violence. The lengthy investigation and legal process leave them without hope of legal protection, ultimately driving them to take desperate actions. In the closing chapters of this book, Shepard begins to narrate cases involving the accidental deaths of elderly individuals. I've previously interpreted extensive works on health risks in the elderly, such as in the book Scientific Aging. For instance, the author proposes in Scientific Aging that aging is a steadily increasing risk of death over time, with the mortality risk doubling every 8 years. When a person is 30 years old, their annual probability of death is less than 1 in 1,000, but by the age of 80, this probability increases to 5% per year. When discussing aging, we often focus more on the diseases that come with old age, such as heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's, and so on, often neglecting aging itself. After all, aging itself is the most significant risk factor for sudden death in the elderly. This is because, in the bodies of elderly individuals, the number of senescent cells continues to increase. Senescent cells are cells that remain in our bodies, unable to perform normal biological functions, yet they do not die. However, they still secrete inflammatory molecules, signaling the immune system to clear them. Due to the gradual weakening of the immune system as we age, senescent cells accumulate, and the inflammatory molecules they secrete can cause various damages to the body. This makes our organ systems more fragile, increasing the risk of developing age-related diseases. According to statistics, every day, out of 150,000 deaths worldwide, over 100,000 result from aging. In fact, during the writing of this book, Shepard also felt the impact of aging on himself. His memory declined, he underwent radiation therapy for prostate cancer, and his meniscus wore down. These factors made it difficult for him to squat while examining bodies at crime scenes. Furthermore, his early habits of smoking and drinking led to liver issues and cardiovascular disease. He concludes in the book that the frailty of the elderly can turn any minor accident into a potential cause of death. For example, an 86-year-old lady named Doris died after a home invasion, but what killed her wasn't the violent actions of the intruders. In fact, when 3 youths under the age of 18 broke in, they merely verbally threatened Doris. Eventually, she surrendered her wallet, and the suspects left satisfied. Doris even called the police afterward. However, when the police arrived promptly, she collapsed and died on the floor. According to the autopsy results, the real culprit in Mrs. Doris's death was her long-standing coronary artery disease and chronic heart failure. When the suspects broke in, her heightened emotions led to a massive adrenaline release. This hormone enabled her to confront and argue with the intruders and complete the call to the police. However, the side effect was a sudden increase in the heart's load, disrupting the heart rate, and her heart could no longer bear the strain, ceasing to beat. Despite the autopsy report serving as circumstantial evidence, the 3 suspects were still convicted. This is because the law has a provision known as the eggshell skull rule, essentially stating that if an illegal assault occurs, regardless of how fragile the victim's constitution is, or whether the suspects are unaware of the victim's health condition, the suspects are still legally responsible. Shepard recalls feeling regret for these 3 young people because in court, they couldn't accept the outcome and were in a state of panic. If these 3 young individuals could have foreseen the tragic result before breaking in, they would undoubtedly have chosen to stay home peacefully. Shepard concludes that in all similar cases, the deaths of elderly individuals often occur in perplexing and awkward situations. His responsibility is to grasp every possible clue to clarify whether the criminal actions of the suspects or the vulnerability of the victim's health bear more responsibility for the deaths. In another case Shepard received, it also happened in a residence with an elderly couple in their 70s, both deceased. Mrs. Grant was found in the living room not far from the front door, and Mr. Grant's body, dressed in pajamas, lay on the bed in the master bedroom. The police suspected a home invasion and murder, but Shepard found some anomalies during the autopsy. Firstly, there were no signs of external violence on the 2 elderly individuals. Secondly, the indoor temperature at the crime scene was extremely low, and certain parts of Mrs. Grant's body had turned reddish-brown, a condition that only occurs in the human body after prolonged exposure to low temperatures. In the autopsy, Shepard discovered that Mrs. Grant had numerous metastatic tumors, with cancer cells spreading from her intestines to the liver and other areas. Mr. Grant, on the other hand, suffered from severe cirrhosis, likely due to long-term alcohol consumption. Coincidentally, in the shopping bag next to Mrs. Grant, there were 2 bottles of vodka just bought. Therefore, Shepard's conclusion was that on the day of their deaths, Mrs. Grant's body was already very weak. Still, she adhered to her lifelong habits while going out to buy daily necessities, including buying alcohol for her husband. However, upon returning home, she collapsed due to a sudden illness. During this time, an abnormal cold spell in May allowed cold air to enter the house continuously through the improperly closed front door. The Grants, perhaps due to thriftiness, did not turn on the heating. As a result, the decreasing room temperature first took Mrs. Grant's life. Subsequently, Mr. Grant, who needed care due to his mobility issues, quickly succumbed to the cold and respiratory difficulties and seizures caused by an outbreak of alcoholism. Alright, the main content of Leaving Time has been introduced to you here. Similar to Shepard's previous work, Unnatural Death, this book revolves around the legendary forensic pathologist's involvement in solving intriguing cases, revealing the truth to readers, educating them on forensic medical knowledge, and expressing his own memories and insights. If you have the time and patience, reading through the original book systematically will make you realize that Shepard, with his rich experience in solving cases and medical knowledge, coupled with his vivid writing style, seemingly transports us back to crime scenes laden with numerous mysteries. In the preface, the author candidly states that both of his works focus on death as their core content. In his view, the threat of death equally troubles each one of us. However, at the same time, death serves as motivation for humans to cherish health, strive for self-realization, and maintain a continuous drive to surpass oneself within the limited span of life. The purpose of this book is to showcase, through various descriptions of abnormal deaths, the high-risk factors threatening life and health in each of the 7 different age groups in life. This spans from the neglect and abuse suffered by newborns to the rebellion and adventurous spirit resulting from imbalanced cognitive system development during adolescence, the survival pressures faced by middle-aged individuals, and the health risks brought about by aging. It can be considered a fascinating record of criminal investigation reasoning, coupled with a guide for healthy living. According to Shepard, only through a deeper understanding of death can we learn how to effectively protect our lives and health and calmly face the inevitability of death when it arrives. Shepard warns us that, despite living in an era of rapid information dissemination and swift development of medical-related technologies, most of us have, to some extent, placed ourselves in various health-hazardous environments before truly entering old age, often turning a blind eye to the possible consequences. After all, refusing to face these facts is a common human flaw, and it is only when disaster strikes, and the face of death becomes unmistakably clear, that genuine regret sets in. However, in reality, making small changes and interventions can significantly extend our health and increase our chances of survival. For instance, diseases like Alzheimer's, which terrify everyone, can be effectively reduced in risk through healthy lifestyle habits, maintaining low blood pressure, regular aerobic exercise, and sufficient, moderate sleep. Above is the essence of this book. Congratulations on completing another book. Thank you all for your support and attention. Please subscribe to the Tim Booker channel, like, and share this valuable knowledge with friends around you. Let us combine wisdom with practice, achieve our financial goals, and create a better future together. Thank you, and goodbye.